Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more shorter-term technical analysis on Bitcoin, because in today's video, I want to revise some of the things and some of the predictions I've been making over the last couple of days, because over the last couple of days, I've been quite bearish on Bitcoin. I've been saying that I believe that Bitcoin is going to break $5,000 and start a major downtrend, but honestly, that hasn't started just yet, and I think it was a little premature for me to go there. And actually, if we look out at the longer-term time frames for Bitcoin, we start looking at the daily chart and the weekly chart, I think there's a much larger, longer-term shift that I was not taking into consideration when I made those predictions. So in today's video, I want to go back and revise my predictions from the previous videos and talk about how Bitcoin might actually not be about to go as bearish as I maybe thought it was going to. I want to go ahead and update what I was thinking in those videos, and I do think that this is definitely a perspective that you're going to want to look at, the bullish perspective on Bitcoin, or at least the more neutral perspective on Bitcoin here for the technical analysis on Bitcoin over the next couple of days. But anyway, guys, before we get into it, I think this is going to be a good video. Before we get into it, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like. That's that little thumbs up button down below. You guys know what that is. Go ahead, hit that. Also consider subscribing and notifying yourself with the notification bell for every time a new video goes out. But without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it, guys. Bitcoin is currently trading around $5,138.64. And as we can see, over the last couple of days, Bitcoin came down here and continually tested $5,000. And in yesterday's video, I made the argument that the more times you test a level of support, the more likely it is that it's going to break. And while that is true, and that is a very important part of technical analysis, as you can see over the last 24 hours or so, Bitcoin bounced and got away from this level and hasn't yet come back down to it. Now, this isn't the most significant piece of technical analysis in the world, partially because Bitcoin still can come down to it and retest this level and then potentially break it. It's also not that significant because it's very short term, but it is something I want to bring to your attention, that one of the arguments I was making in yesterday's video were all of these touches down here on $5,000, and Bitcoin right now isn't even on $5,000. It's managed to rally away from $5,000 and come up and start testing resistance again, guys. If we look at this, we can go ahead and hit a level of resistance right here at $5,200 or so, and we see that this is actually a major level of resistance for Bitcoin based on the price action during the last rally. We saw resistance, support, and support. That's a big important piece of resistance for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin just came up and touched it. So instead of Bitcoin just sitting down here on a flat level of support at $5,250 or so, excuse me, $5,025 or so, it's more like Bitcoin's in a bit of a trading channel right now, and it looks like it's coming up to test resistance at the moment. So if Bitcoin were so bearish like I was saying it was, why exactly is Bitcoin coming up and testing resistance? I did, in fact, in the last couple of videos, lay out the possibility that Bitcoin breaks off of bounces off of $5,000 and moves towards the upside. I always said that that was a definite possibility, but I think where my prediction was wrong was in saying that I thought that there might, basically what I was saying is that I figured there may be a 60% chance that we break bearish here. I think the more accurate technical prediction here is maybe a 50-50, honestly, because the technicals are telling us two completely different things, and there's a pretty strong argument for both. And I'm going to be laying out the argument that I haven't talked about a whole lot in this video, but this is the first thing I wanted to show you, is that Bitcoin is actually testing resistance right now. The next thing I want to talk about is the amount of bearishness that we've seen. Because over the last couple of videos, I've been talking about this bullish breakout compared to this bearishness, and talking about how this is indicative of major bearishness. But actually, over the last couple of days, as we've been going through here, my analysis of this has been updating day by day. And the fact that Bitcoin has not been continuing this downtrend, and instead has continued to trade sideways, and even now gotten away from $5,000, is actually reminding us that Bitcoin isn't all that bearish. If we look at the grand scheme of things, Bitcoin is down like 7%. Guys, Bitcoin is up something like 50% since the beginning of this rally. Bitcoin is really, really far up. So Bitcoin has had just a tiny little bit of bearishness. It may be a little bit too early for us to go jumping to conclusions like Bitcoin's about to have a 20% crash. And like I said, I think that there was a slight chance that, well, not a slight chance, I think there's a pretty decent chance that we break bullish. But now I think it might be a little bit better that Bitcoin either trades sideways for a couple weeks or actually does start going bullish again. I still think there's a pretty good chance that we break bearish, guys. I'm not saying that there's no chance we break bearish. I think that Bitcoin could still use the correction. I simply want to update my my percentage chances of this happening. And there's something interesting I want to show you guys out on the weekly chart that kind of epitomizes what I'm talking about right here. I talked about in the last couple of minutes about how it seems like Bitcoin wants to do a couple different things. Bitcoin's technical indicators are kind of contradicting each other. Sometimes you have that happen. Sometimes some technical analysis will point bullish. Sometimes some technical analysis will point bearish. And sometimes you'll find yourself in a place where pretty much the technical analysis is perfectly split down the middle and it's hard to make a prediction at all. And this is something I want to show you guys, is that on the weekly chart, Bitcoin is actually mirroring what I just said, because as you can see on the weekly chart, we're looking at a spin spinning top. And if you guys are in the course, if you go through the candlestick analysis video, then you guys will know that spinning tops are indicators. They are chart patterns of uncertainty in the market. As you can see, Bitcoin had a nice long wick up here during the week, and then a nice long wick down here during the week, and then we closed up here right back where we started. These are uncertainty indicators, and they do tell you that the market doesn't really know which direction it wants to go. This means that the market doesn't know if it wants to go up or if it wants to go down. Now, sometimes when you see a spinning top like this after a rally, a lot of times it will be a continuation pattern, but that is a very low percentage chance predictor, so don't necessarily use it that way. That's just something that does sometimes happen. But this right here, this spinning top does kind of show you exactly what I'm talking about here. But anyway, guys, I've laid out the bearish scenarios for Bitcoin here over the last couple of days, so let's lay out some bullish things. I want to show you a very important uptrend that Bitcoin is defending, and that if Bitcoin stops defending is actually going to be pretty bad for Bitcoin, and that bearish scenario I've been talking about may come to pass. That would be this uptrend on the Bitcoin's daily RSI. You may have seen this because a lot of people have been talking about it, and I haven't really talked about it all that much, but I do want to talk about it today. There's an uptrend on Bitcoin's RSI. You can draw it like this, or you can draw it like this. For right now, it's not terribly important how we draw it because we're not testing it yet, but if Bitcoin were to start moving to the downside and test this uptrend of support, this is going to be another one of those crucial moments. By the way, what I said in the last couple of videos of right now being a crucial moment of Bitcoin, I still stand 100% behind that. What happens in the next week or so in relation to this $5,000 level, what happens in relation to this is going to be very, very important. If Bitcoin bounces and goes away from it, Bitcoin very well may be continuing to go bullish. If Bitcoin breaks it, we're probably going to see some more bearishness. I'm not reneging on that in any way, shape, or form. What I'm saying is that I don't necessarily think we're going to break as bearish as I thought we might. But anyway, this uptrend of support on the RSI right here is another one of those critical moments, because when Bitcoin, if Bitcoin breaks bearish here, and starts moving down, we're going to find support down here around $4,800 and a couple of other levels of support that I've discussed. And when Bitcoin, if Bitcoin does do that, so too is the RSI going to fall down. And right around the time Bitcoin comes down here and tests the levels of support like $4,800, for example, Bitcoin's RSI is probably also going to be testing this longer-term uptrend on the RSI with the higher lows. By the way, we're also in a trading channel on the RSI, even though that's not technically what you would call it, but we are in a bit of a trading channel. We can draw a level of resistance right there. Go ahead and change that color. And that's what Bitcoin's RSI looks like right now. If Bitcoin comes down here and tests this level of support, it's also going to be testing RSI right here. And that will be another critical moment, because if Bitcoin breaks this uptrend, then I definitely think we're going to see some bearishness. Daily RSI is a very powerful indicator that a lot of people are looking at. If Bitcoin breaks this uptrend on the RSI, we're probably going to see some more bearishness. But we're not there yet. And that's the point I'm trying to make in today's video, is that we're not quite there yet. We don't want to jump to conclusions. We don't want to just go saying, okay, well, Bitcoin's going to go bearish when we're not totally sure. Because I want to show you guys something. If you guys have realized, Bitcoin's been doing pretty well here over the last 2 months. In fact, that's a pretty important number, isn't it? Let's go ahead and grab our measuring device. Let's go ahead and decide and try and figure out how long this uptrend for Bitcoin has been. And since Bitcoin hasn't really started breaking 5K and smashing through levels of support, I'm going to consider everything up to today uptrend material. Bitcoin has been in an uptrend ever since right back over here on the 8th of February. Bitcoin's been in an uptrend for 66 days, guys. And I really hadn't even, I hadn't put enough weight on this, because this is very important, that length of time. Of course, Bitcoin's had some corrections during that, but Bitcoin technically has been in a rally basically for 66 days. And guys, the last time that we saw a rally that lasted 66 days was during the last bull market. If we look back here in time on Bitcoin, Bitcoin has not had a 66-day bull rally. It just hasn't happened. It didn't happen at all during 2018. We can come back here and measure all these rallies. None of them last over a month, and maybe 35 days at most. None of them last anywhere near 2 months. None of them. You already know that one's not going to be long enough. None of them. Not a one of them. Bitcoin has been bullish for over 2 months now. And while in the last couple of videos, I've been taking that as a sign of bearishness and the idea that Bitcoin needs to correct because the bulls have been in control for so long, I think one thing that we've been making, that I and a lot of other YouTubers, to be fair, this isn't just me. I think a lot of people need to wake up to this. This isn't just me. I think a lot of people need to realize that we're not in a bear market anymore. We're in an accumulation phase moving on into a bull market. So where in 2018, when Bitcoin would rally, if Bitcoin rallied for 2 months, oh man, we were about to have hell to pay because Bitcoin about to fall off a cliff because we were in a bear market. We're not in a bear market anymore, guys. We're in an accumulation phase moving into a bull market. So just because we've been rallying for 2 months doesn't necessarily mean we have to have our hell to pay just yet. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to have a gigantic crash like we would during the bear market over here. Just because Bitcoin has had a major rally does not mean that we have to have a major downtrend. Because if we look during bull markets, which is what we are getting close to moving into, Bitcoin, instead of having a month-long uptrend and then a 2-month-long downtrend like we see right here, instead of seeing a month-long uptrend and a 2-month-long downtrend, we'd see a 2-month-long uptrend and a month-long downtrend. 2 months long, and then maybe a 3-week-long downtrend. The rallies were twice as long as the downtrends in bull markets, and the uptrends were half as long as the downtrends in bear markets. So right now, what we may see is that Bitcoin only falls 10% or so. Maybe Bitcoin falls down to $4,500, $4,000, something like that. And we may not even see that happen just yet. Maybe the bulls are so exuberant. Because one thing also you have to keep in mind, guys, is that Bitcoin has been in a bear market for over a year. And I'm not saying that we're in a bear market right now, but if you... for simplicity, I'm saying that everything after December 17, 2017 is a bear market, even though everything past about December 2018 is not. We've been in a bear market for a very long time. People have had the opportunity to sell for a very long time. People have had the opportunity to sell more recently than this. Bitcoin rallied all the way up to $5,450. Bitcoin rallied very strongly up here. Not that many people are selling. People just aren't doing that a whole lot of selling. Not a whole lot of people are shorting Bitcoin either. Look at the shorts charts. This is the lowest they've been in a very long time, and they keep going down. We haven't seen the shorts jump up to 40,000 in a long time. All of the technicals and fundamentals are pointing towards long-term bullishness. And what you also have to realize about technical analysis is that short-term analysis and long-term analysis does overlap. The power that the longer-term technical analysis that we're looking at and some of these fundamental shifts in the market, like people being more bullish in general, people doing that does have an impact on shorter-term markets. So we have to update our longer-term ideology about how the market operates so that we can be more accurate in our short-term predictions. So the point that I'm trying to make in this video is that as we continue moving through 2019, Bitcoin on the longer term timescales is getting more and more and more bullish. And we can't discount that on the short term and still use our bear market mentality and say that Bitcoin is just going to break support because it always breaks support, because we're moving into a bull market. And Bitcoin doesn't just always break support in a bull market. We have to be careful about how we apply our longer term thinking to short term technical analysis, because sometimes it can cloud your vision. And I think the main problem I've been making in these last couple of videos that I hope I've corrected in this video is that I've been thinking in a much more bear market kind of way, where Bitcoin is going to go ahead and break these levels of support and Bitcoin's going to crash just because Bitcoin has had a little bit of a correction. In a bear market, yeah, Bitcoin was going to break this 100%, but we're not necessarily in a bear market anymore, guys. We're moving into more bullish territory, and Bitcoin, because of the longer term trends that we're seeing, does have a much higher percent chance of bouncing here. So let's go ahead and talk about what Bitcoin might do if Bitcoin does go ahead and bounce, or where Bitcoin might be going. I want to make it myself very, very clear, because sometimes I don't manage to make myself just clear enough and people misconstrue what I say. I want to make myself very clear. In the past couple of videos, my prediction, I didn't necessarily word it this way, my prediction was for Bitcoin was about a 60 to 65% chance that we break bearish, and then maybe a 20% chance that we trade sideways, and a slightly smaller percent chance that we move to the upside, whatever the rest of 100 is, somewhere around there. That was basically my prediction. My prediction now is basically a 50-50. I want to wait and see what Bitcoin does before I make a prediction on Bitcoin. I want to wait and see if Bitcoin breaks bullish here to talk bullishness, and I want to wait and see if Bitcoin breaks 5,225 before we start talking bearishness. I want to wait, see what the technicals say, because right now, as I showed you with that spinning top out on the weekly chart, Bitcoin is in this indecisive period of decision where Bitcoin has to decide what it wants to do, but it's indecisive. So we're going to have to wait before we really have a great idea of what Bitcoin is going to do. But I also wanted to bring attention to the bullish scenario on Bitcoin and some of the thought processes that many of us may have had wrong moving here on into the bull market. Because I've been in bull markets, I've been in bear markets, I've been in accumulation phases. And you have to change your mindset for the longer-term technical analysis and the longer-term chart reading so that you can then apply that properly to the shorter term and you don't cloud your judgment. I do hope I've made myself clear in this video, and I mean that in that I hope I've made the argument that I'm trying to make, I hope I've made it digestible and understandable, because it can be kind of a confusing topic to put into words. I hope you guys understand the points I've been trying to make in today's video. If you don't, tell me in the comment section down below, and if you do, tell me in the comment section down below. Let's get a conversation started about the points I've been making in today's video, about the longer term thinking. Because one thing you have to understand, guys, is that me changing my opinion is not a bad thing. People changing their opinion in technical analysis is not a bad thing. If you want to go ahead and change your opinion, that's fine. Do it with evidence. If you see new evidence come to light and you realize, wait a minute, I may have been wrong on something, Don't just sit there and keep having the same opinion. Okay, let's say you're in Florida and you're trying to drive to Maine. No, let's say you're in Kentucky and you're trying to drive to Maine. You're in Kentucky. That's a state somewhere central in the United States if you're not from America. Let's say you're trying to drive Maine. You're trying to drive north. But you start driving south, and then 500 miles later, someone points out that, hey, dude, you're driving the wrong way. What are you going to do? Are you going to yell at him and say, oh, well, you're wrong, I'm always right? No, you're going to say, oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know I was doing that. You're going to turn around and go the other way because you realize you were wrong and it's being detrimental to you. It's very important that we are able to look at new evidence in the light of new evidence and change our predictions on a moment's notice. We have to be able to update ourselves on a moment's notice because these markets move fast and they will obliterate you if you stick to losing ideas that you now realize are not correct. And I think I was wrong to predict that Bitcoin was going to break bearish with such exuberance just yet. If Bitcoin comes down here to $4,800, Bitcoin's going to be more bearish. Basically, if Bitcoin breaks $4,800, I think we'll be going to $4,000. But we're not there yet. So I want to hold off the predictions I've been making for another couple of days, see what Bitcoin does. Then we'll come back to talk about bearishness because I think there is a decent argument to be made that Bitcoin does need a correction. That will be that will be for the gods to decide. We'll see what happens with that in the next couple of days. And guys, we will continue doing updates on that. So if you guys enjoyed today's video and you enjoyed learning about one of the most important lessons in technical analysis, and that is to have humility and be able to change your predictions at a moment's notice when you have new evidence. If you enjoyed learning about that, tell me in the comment section down below and drop a like. It does help out the channel when you do that, and I would be appreciative if you did it. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, guys. But anyway, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.